On the subject of autistic people, society is already radical. This is the Overton window. In it are all the political ideologies deemed acceptable in major discussions, and the closer you are to the center, the more acceptable it is to advocate for. Currently in general politics, the Overton window has stretched. In my opinion, it's more stretched towards the right, but it has become normalized to support more radically rightist and more radically leftist politics. So it's not so much radicalized in any particular direction, more so polarized. For autistic people, it's a little different. Imagine a similar spectrum that goes from most pro-autistic to most anti-autistic. At one end, autistic people replace everyone else, and on the other, autistic people go extinct. Now, this is less about the existence of autistic people, but rather how much freedom or power autistic people have compared to other people. It just so happens that you have no power if you don't exist. Now, for reference, the center of these two extremes would be a point where autistic people and everyone else were about equal in terms of freedom and power. Most autistic people believe in this range because most autistic people at least, don't have that much pride in being autistic, but at the same time want a society where they have more power and freedom than the status quo. The status quo is where I consider the real center to be, at least in terms of detecting radicalism, but otherwise rather far on the anti-autistic side. And it is where it is because while there are some autistic elites, most people ignore ABA and autistic depopulation, while it's still going on. I want you to guess where the Overton window is. Now, for most minorities, it would be here, since while there is discrimination, it is unpopular, but instead it's over here. That's because being autistic is still seen as a negative, to the point where oppression and extinction is seen as a good thing. And it's past the status quo because no major organization addresses the declining birth rates of or oppression against autistic people. In fact, if you want to join any major organization that does anything regarding autistic people, you have to not deny that autistic people are rising in numbers, benefit from ABA, and are an economic burden. None of these are even true, and moreover, are designed to promote autistic extinction. Now, to be fair, it's also radical to explicitly promote eugenics, but they do it anyway. MSSNG has no significant benefits other than the ability to abort autistic fetuses. While they probably do have to hide the implication of eugenics, they're still allowed to do what they're doing, and eugenics by prenatal abortion is already popular anyway. Within the window, everyone has to say that autistic people are mentally ill. While you can work around it, it's impossible to make any real progress here because, at this point, the problem is autistic people themselves, rather than oppression against autistic people. For example, if you do want to preserve the status quo, that would still be problematic because it's seen as good to provide more ABA and treatment to autistic people. By doing nothing, you are already a radical. The long-term goal, however, is not just to survive autism awareness, but to build an autistic civilization, as we did as Neanderthals and CroMagnons. In fact, we should expect ourselves to build a better civilization than anyone before since we have all of history to learn from. To simply be towards the center, we have to reject all notions set by autism culture. We have to create new frameworks just to experiment with something besides what autism culture wants. We have to shift the window to survive. We want to be able to be part of an autistic community and discuss how to make things better without being berated about how autistic people are inferior.